Hey, this is Mike from the Graphic Novel Show. Are you interested in starting and running your own podcast? Well, you know, this is the second one that we've done. We used to do a different one, and we decided to start this one. And last time we used Anchor, and you know what? We decided to go back with Anchor again because they are the easiest way to make a podcast. They give you everything you need in one place for free. You can do it right from your phone or on your computer. Anchor gives you creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. You can do that right from your phone. That's quite amazing. They'll also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Now, what you need to do is go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, I'm Parker, and I use they, them pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I use he, him pronouns. And welcome to the Graphic Novel Podcast. All right, welcome to our end of the year show. This Graphic Novel Podcast is a show that comes out every week, and during the show, we discuss graphic novels, zines, mini comics, and we throw in a bit of real life.
Sometimes we talk about queer issues, race issues, relationships, sometimes death.
And every Friday, we have a brand new episode for you. If you like the show, we'd love it if you went on Apple Podcasts and gave us 5 stars. And if you have time, give us a review on Apple or Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, any one of the places you can find our show.
Make sure that you subscribe so that each week when our new episode goes live, it shows up in your feed and waiting there for you to listen.
That's right. You can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Insta. And if you visit us at anchor.fm/graphic novel podcast, you can leave us a voice message. Make sure that you subscribe to our podcast.
I already said that.
We'd love it if you did that. Anyhow, this is our end of the year, 2020. One of the worst years ever in some ways, and one of the best years in some ways, depending on what's going on. Overall, in this country, in the world, it's been a horrible year.
Yeah, overall, it's
we've had some positive things happen here for ourselves, so that's been it's been an up and down year for us. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the best and worst of 2020.
When you say best, when you told me best and worst of, and that's what you wanted to do, and I was like, I don't have a single book that I could say worst of. And you're like, that's not what I mean.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. We don't review books that we don't like. I mean, there's been very few that we've
Yeah, but there's
read.
not even a book that I could say that we reviewed this year that I could say it was okay.
That we've reviewed. That's what I'm saying. There's been a few books that we've read that we weren't necessarily thrilled with. But this year, we had picked a superb number of books. Now, to be fair, I tried to keep it to books that came out more recently.
Oh man, I didn't even think to look at that.
Yeah, I didn't pick. There were a lot of good books. Like I didn't pick March or Persepolis or a few other books because
Mouse,
because those are fantastic books, but they weren't new. They were all fantastic books, though. But I kept
Should
those.
I erase that one from my
You can
list?
keep whatever you want. I personally, that's the way I decided to go with it.
Okay.
But let's start with the worst of 2020. Let's start with 2020 itself. Pandemic. The pandemic. Something that hopefully no one that's listening to this show will ever have to experience again. Something this horrific. I mean, I don't know how we could how you can top that itself. Oh, I'm sorry, you can. You can have a president who, first of all, tells the public that there's no such thing. The pandemic is a Democratic hoax.
How people manage to believe that is so beyond my like I can't even fathom how that sounds believable to people, but they ate it up.
Even people who got sick or knew people who got sick or died still don't believe it. I mean, so what are you going to do? Then you find out that the president in January knew that it was bad and admitted it was bad, but didn't tell the public that. Refused to wear a mask, refused to let the federal government take over and control this pandemic in order to purchase PPE and anything that was needed. Instead, states and even municipalities were fighting with each other to buy these things. You've got doctors and nurses and medical staff that are still not getting the proper stuff because they can't.
We got to watch nurses and doctors cover themselves in garbage bags because that's the country we live in,
and die from taking care of people. I mean, it's been horrible. And then you find out that the government made a deal. They had this Operation Warp Speed where they were trying to get a vaccine out. And you find out that, first of all, Pfizer didn't take any government money from the United States. Then the United States worked out a $100 million dose deal. But just several months before the end of the year, they were given the opportunity, or over the summer, they were given the opportunity to order a second batch. They turned it down. And now the United States may not be able to get enough until, next spring or summer.
And everybody's going to need 2 doses. So that's
enough.
A big hit.
So that's 50 million doses. So that's 50 million people out of 350 million people that are going to need. Now, we already know that at least 70 million aren't going to take it because they voted for Trump. So they all don't believe it.
I don't think that's true. You're
right. It's probably going to be 100 million. But let's see. Okay, so that was obviously the worst thing that happened this year. Number 2, because of that, you had things like events, like all the Comic Cons were canceled. Emerald City was attempting to go on, remember?
Yeah.
That was supposed to take place in March, and that's when it was really starting to pick up, and people were canceling. A lot of the creators said, I'm not going because we don't know what's going on. And finally they said, okay, you know what? We're going to postpone it to August. And they had to cancel it, just like everybody else.
Right.
Last week we mentioned that the LA Comic Con was going to go on, and then they finally decided they were going to cancel it too. But yeah, so I mean, for a lot of creators, that's a way that they make a lot of money.
Right.
Meeting people, selling books, doing commissions.
But they also found a way, and I don't know if comic book creators did, but artists in general found a way through Zoom meets to do, like
sketching, live sketches and stuff they did.
Yes, there was live sketches. There was book talks where people could ask questions. And I mean, it's not as good as getting to meet the person.
Is it though? I wonder, because if you're in like a big auditorium or something, or even in a group of 100 people, not even, what's the chance you're going to get to like one-on-one with somebody like that? Yeah. Whereas in a Zoom meeting, you got a better chance, and you can talk to them. Now you can't hold their hand or shake their hand or anything, or
do they
shake their hand.
Often hold hands with hands.
Like if you're getting a book signed, you can shake their hand or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it for some people it may be something that, especially people who don't like to
go to crowds.
Yes.
Yeah.
On both sides, the creators and a lot of them are the creators, but they have to do that because that's where they make money.
Right.
That may be something that a lot of them end up doing going
beyond,
forward.
Because your audience can be so much bigger than just the people in town, right?
Yes, exactly.
In that town or surrounding areas, obviously. But yeah. I could see it. I could see it definitely catching on and continuing on past the.
Yeah. So I mean that could be a positive that comes out of this, but. Yeah, so that was a big thing. We were looking forward to going to several cons this year. We, hopefully next year. March is coming too soon. There's no way Emerald City Comic Con's going on in March again.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't imagine so.
I mean, they might try again for August if they can. I mean, it's a possibility by then.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, there's no way that can go on. Last big worst of 2020. The haters from Comicsgate.
Yeah.
Crazy online, going after people. They were going after this one creator, Tess Fowler, has cancer, breast cancer, and they're still going after her and telling her, good she's got that. Hope you die. And these are fucking horrible people.
Disgusting.
Oh, I mean, it's just, if you want to know what Comicsgate is, if you don't know, just go do a search on online. You'll find it.
Do you want to do just a quick overview of what Comicsgate is, just so people, because I feel like when you Google things online, you can find weird stuff.
You can. They are basically, honestly, they're just here. Bottom line here, from Wikipedia, they're a pressure group against liberalism in the comics industry. Basically, they're white men that are creators in the comic book industry.
White straight men who think that that the only people who should be able to create comic books are white straight men.
Yes, they don't want queers, blacks. They don't care about that stuff, but they don't want them getting any type of preferential treatment. They don't want more comics about gays. They don't want more comics about black superheroes. They want their Superman and their Batman and their Spider-Man and all that other bullshit, which is fine. But all the books we read this year,
that way isn't fine.
No. If those books are fine, I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
But that's not where comics are going. We're talking comics are billions now. With a B, with graphic novels creating a huge portion of that now. In kids, especially YA stuff, a lot of those things, Dave Pilkey and his Dogman and Captain Underpants and all those things, those things are selling millions of copies. He comes out with like 8 books a year or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, really?
I don't know if it's that many, but he definitely comes out with a 2 or 3, 4. That's a lot of books.
Can you imagine creating that many books a year?
And he does all the work too. He does the writing, the drawing, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, and just popping these books out, and I'm sure he's just going crazy, cranking this stuff out from his head.
I'm just wondering how exhausted he is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very concerned. Are you getting enough sleep at night?
But yeah, I mean,
make sure you drink and eat.
So white superheroes are not the only thing out there. And white creators.
Well, I don't know if they
white
know this.
Straight.
I don't know if they know this or not, but superheroes are not human, so they're not real people.
I agree.
So they can look like whatever.
Yeah. So the Comicsgaters, they hate anybody that's trying to push, anything that's not just the straight agenda for them, the straight Christian agenda. And the one guy who's been real big on it. And what's happened is part of it is that some of them have been called out, and they've lost business.
Canceled.
They've been canceled from some of their big publishers.
Because it wasn't even that they were doing it, but then they were sending money to these people who. Oh yeah,
that too. Yeah. In fact, one of the companies that we had bought a few books from, it turned out that the CEO had sent money to one of these douches. And the head douche, really, and the head douche, and we just stopped. We stopped talking about their books, So unfortunately for them, we won't be talking about their books anymore. And there was a couple books that I had already purchased, and we're not going to talk about them. Yeah, because I think they kind of backtracked when they found the backlash that they got. But it was too late. People already discussed it. So anyhow, that's 2020, the crap that's happened. A few good things in there.
My favorite brewery we just found out.
Oh, geez, today, we just found out that our favorite brewery in Seattle and Ballard neighborhoods, Populux, is closing. By the time the show airs, they're going to be closed. COVID, they just couldn't survive. They worked really hard to stay open. I mean, they were doing curbside growler fills. One of the first ones to do it in Seattle anyway. So they just had the taps out there and you pull up and they'd fill your growler? No. Oh, okay. They had growlers filled. Oh, well, we did that when we went to the one brewery too. Yeah. When it was in the middle of the summer, they had them pre-filled. You couldn't even bring your own growler in. Yeah, that's what they were doing. And they weren't charging extra, which was nice. They were just, we can't take your growler, so we'll give you one of ours. Yeah, I don't know if I don't believe that. They probably couldn't afford to do that. Yeah. The one we went to during the summer or during the
whatever is a
Mhm.
bigger brewery, still local. Small.
Yes.
So, you know,
Smallish.
yes, when it comes to push comes to shove, it's still a local brewery. But yeah, Populux. So we're gonna head down and
We're going to buy some beer
Buy
and some
some beer
merchandise and give them our last support because we're not going to be able to see them again.
honestly, Populux was one of the breweries that we went to and probably supported more than any other Seattle brewery. I mean, we would go down to Seattle often just to go to Populux. And I remember being down in Seattle and you'd be like, well, you want to do anything else? And I'm like,
Yep.
I'd like to go to Populux.
Yep.
And we did.
And for those of you that don't know, back in 2015, 2016, Parker and I hosted a show called Northwest Brew Talk. And Peter from Populux was the first and only brewer to actually contact us to do an interview.
Yeah, and he wasn't even real, like, he wanted to do the interview, right? But he was like, I don't like it. I think that he's, and once you start talking,
he might not have expected us to say, yeah, we want to do an interview with you.
Maybe not, but it seemed like he kind of felt out of character, to reach out. But he liked your book, and he listened to the podcast,
yeah.
And so he wanted to be on, and I was in love at that point. It was like, this is my brewery, not mine, obviously, because my favorite,
because they had great beer.
Oh yeah,
the beer was good. Every single beer is always
amazing. Good. And he always, I mean, when he would always take time out to stop and talk to us when we were in the brewery, if he was there too. I mean, there was a few times we went that he wasn't there, because he has to sleep sometime.
Yeah.
But I hope that he finds something that he can do, and enjoy as much as he enjoyed his brewing.
Hopefully he can. I mean, I heard that he's. Another brewery's going to be moving in there. Now, maybe he sold all the equipment to them, but he may have kept his original one, brew kit there, and maybe he's going to brew again on the side. And
I mean, because that's how he started out.
Brew on the side and just sell, stuff.
I mean, I hope so. I hope he does something, because he was a fabulous brewer, and the community for sure is going to miss him.
We've talked about this. I don't think I don't know if we've mentioned it on the show, but we've talked about it. I mean, COVID is going to kill a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses that don't have deep enough pockets to survive. They don't have landlords that are willing to cut them a deal.
I mean, I'm surprised that so many have lasted as long as they have.
I agree, but I've been driving down to downtown Seattle daily now for work, and I see it is. Last summer I was going down there, and it is so different. Yeah. It is so different. It is like ghost town compared to last summer. I mean, there were times where there were traffic jams down there, where now I'm ahead of schedule all the time.
Right.
And just buildings that you could see, businesses that are closed.
Right.
Every restaurant and every coffee shop doesn't need to be open because there's not enough people working down there.
Right.
There's still a lot of people that live there. But it's not enough to sustain it when you have hundreds or tens of thousands coming in every day also. Right.
And those people who are living downtown aren't necessarily working and can't afford to be, buying coffee out every day on their way to work, because they're not going to work anymore or whatever.
They're just staying in the building.
They're staying in their building. Yeah. And so,
they're not walking. Go out. They're not walking past Starbucks, so they're not going to stop in or whatever.
Exactly.
Or the
small shop.
Yes. Yeah, whatever place it is. Anyhow, so that is...
Now that we have the bad news.
That was the bad news.
The bad stuff.
So now we're going to get to our best of 2020. All right, Parker, why don't you give us your... What we did was we picked 5 out of the 40-some books that we reviewed this year. More than 40 total, but 40 were the main ones.
I have to say, I pulled up the list, pulled up our page. This was one of the hardest decisions, because I loved every single book so much. I was like, oh yeah, that one. Oh, that one. Oh yeah, that one. Oh wait, that one. Yeah, that one. No, wait, 5? You want 5?
I'm like,
sure you don't want 25?
I'm like, 30? I'm like, do you have your list? I'm like, I've got like 8. You're like, 8? I couldn't come up with 8. There are too many. But I'm like, I've got 8. I'm gonna give 5. 5 is my top, and 3 of them are gonna be special mentions. since those were the ones I came up with.
Okay. I think that because you told me your list, so I think I picked everything different.
Okay.
So that way they're all different. So
Okay.
we get a big list going.
Okay. All right. Go first.
All right. So my first, but not
They're not in order.
They're not in any kind of order.
These are just our.
Was In Spite of Ourselves, which was episode 36, and you want me to read just a little?
Yeah. Who's it by?
Natalie Dupille. Sorry.
Yeah.
You don't want me to read the
No,
blurb?
if you want, go ahead.
Okay. Graphic novella that follows Natalie, a casual cyclist, and Allie, a hell for leather bike mechanic, as they navigate a 4-day bike trip a month before Allie is scheduled for a life-changing surgery.
Yeah. That okay. Good book. Yeah. Definitely good book. I remember now. What the story's about. But yeah.
My favorite part being those. I mean, I can't even pick a favorite part, but that was the watercolors, I believe.
Yes, that was. Yeah.
And they had they went to those.
The hot springs. Yeah.
That we want to visit. Yeah. So that was
in Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was good. Yeah. That was a good book. Yeah, I did like that. Anything else you want to say about that one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I could sit and talk about it all day long, but I figure we should try and keep as long as our lists are. We should probably try and keep it short and sweet.
All right. Since you told what the book is about, I probably should do that too.
Oh, see. Okay. Well, I'll pull up my next one.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared.
Sorry, I pulled them all up while we were.
Oh, you're way too smart.
There's no such thing as what you said.
That you're too smart?
Correct.
You are right. All right. My first book was our first book of 2020, The Strange Ones by Jeremy Jousset.
It was so hard for me not to pick that one.
Yeah.
I was so glad when you said it. So I was like, okay, I don't have to pick it.
Really good book.
Yeah.
The description, filled with visceral and engaging prose, this graphic novella offers a nostalgic look at two young misfits who manage to find belonging and heartbreak in each other's friendship. Just a great book with an ending that you don't expect. And I think that's why I chose it. Just because the ending was not what you expected, and it wasn't a happy ending.
Right.
Which
is like my favorite thing. I love it when books because life doesn't have happy endings.
I know that. And that doesn't make it any easier for stories. I mean, people like to have stories that make them happy.
That's the point of stories, right? Because it's not real life. You want to.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't feel that way. I like it when the books don't have happy end. Now, is that everything that I read? No, but I do appreciate it when they don't fit that happy ending.
But yeah, criteria. that was a wonderful book. It was a great way to start 2020 before we knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Angeline walks with an open heart but alone through a world that consistently rejects her, and Frank, another loner, never smiles. And they become friends, and it's a great book. Loved it. From Gallery 13.
Oh yeah.
Came out in January too, so it was brand new. All right, what do you have?
Oh yeah, see, I didn't do that. I didn't pay attention
because I pulled up the Amazon link, so I saw that.
Okay, so my next book is The Wilds by Vida Ayala. Vida Ayala.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
Vida Ayala. With Danny Lore as editing and Emily Pearson, the artist. After a cataclysmic plague sweeps across America, survivors come together from city-state-like communities for safety. Daisy Walker is a runner for the compound, a mix of post-apocalyptic postal service and black market salvaging operation. It is a runner's job to ferry items and people between settlements and on occasion scavenge through the ruins of the old world. Daisy is the best there is at what she does. Out beyond the settlement walls are innumerable dangers, feral animals, crumbling structures, and abominations. Those that were touched by the plague and became something other. Heather. After a decade of surviving, Daisy isn't fazed by any of it until her lover, another runner named Heather, goes missing on the job. Desperate to find her, Daisy begins to see that there may be little difference between the world inside the walls and the horrors beyond. From writer Vida Ayala, I can't say it anytime. Emily Pearson, with cover by Natasha Alterici, comes this bold tale of surviving in bleak times. That was quite fitting for 2020.
It was an interesting book. I mean, it was
the art was just fantastic,
yeah,
with
very
the
nice.
plants and the abominations and and again and a queer storyline too, which is something I always appreciate, right?
Yep.
So yeah, just a fabulous book. Definitely one of my favorites.
Yep.
Which is easy to say because they're all my favorites.
Yeah, I know. All right. My next book is Big Black, Standard Africa by Frank Big Black Smith, Jared Reinmuth, and Amazian. I believe that's how we'd say his name. I forgot.
Did you put down what episode number? I forgot. I wrote what episode numbers and then I didn't say them.
Oh, well, let's see. Let's see. What was I talking about? My last book was episode 21, The Strange Ones. And Big Black is episode 29. What was your book that you just did?
I just did The Wilds, which was episode 46.
Okay.
And the In Spite of Ourselves was episode 36.
Yeah, I think you'd said that one. Okay. But yeah, so Big Black is a story. Big Black, graphic novel memoir from Frank Big Black Smith, a prisoner at Attica State Prison in 1971, whose rebellion against the injustices of the prison system remained one of the bloodiest civil rights confrontations in American history. I lived in Buffalo most of my life, and Attica Prison is 40 minutes away, maybe. Not too far.
Right.
Big prison. We knew guards that worked there. They were all bikers. And
does that surprise you now, knowing what we
know about white supremacists and everything? Yeah. No, it's none of them ever showed that to me, but that doesn't mean that they're not, you know.
Yeah, I think that there's. I mean, I only spent time with the one guy, who came to our wedding in a very strange way. Your friend.
He kind of invited himself.
No, Steve invited him.
No, he said something to Steve. That's why.
Well, that's what Steve says, but I don't.
You could be right.
I think Steve just wanted him there.
Could be,
which was fine.
Yeah,
He was a nice guy.
I think we talked about it on an episode once before.
Oh, okay. But again, he's not a good guy. He's a prison guard. There's no way.
You're right. He seemed like a nice person, but you're right.
Yes.
Correct. So, but this book, fantastic, horrible story about how this man who was not a leader. I mean, I don't believe he was a leader. He just became a leader. He was kind of like the go-between between like the prison system, the warden, and the prisoners who had rioted, because they just wanted basic things like decent food and meals and
to be treated like humans, maybe.
To be treated like humans instead of being
animals
in this prison that treated them like animals.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, our prison system is so fucked. It's so fucked. There's so much that needs to change in our prison system. And all of this book outlines.
Yep. The art was fantastic. Full color. Story was wonderful story. Wonderfully written and put together. Frank Big Black Smith, he's passed away since before the book was done. But he had done interviews with Jeremy Reinmuth, and they discussed it all. So he knew what the story was, and he knew how to write it. And I believe his widow was involved.
Oh, okay.
So it was is a good thing, and great book. Definitely top 5 material.
My next book is March, book 1, by John Lewis, Andrew Aiden, and Nate Powell. Congressman John Lewis is an American icon, one of the key figures of the civil rights movement. His commitment to justice and nonviolence has taken him from Alabama sharecropper's farm to the halls of Congress, from a segregated schoolroom in the 1963 March on Washington and receiving beatings from state troopers to receive the Medal of Freedom from the first African-American president. Now, to share his remarkable story with new generations, Lewis presents March, a graphic novel trilogy in collaboration with co-writer Andrew Aiden and New York Times bestselling artist Nate Powell, winner of the Eisner Award and LA Times Book Prize finalist for Swallow Me Whole. March is a vivid first-hand account of John Lewis's lifelong struggle for civil and human rights, meditating in the modern age of distance traveled since the days of Jim Crow and segregation. Rooted in Lewis's personal story, it also reflects the highs and lows of the broader civil rights movement. Book 1 spans John Lewis's youth in rural Alabama, his life-changing meeting with Martin Luther King Jr., and the birth of Nashville's student movement and their battle to tear down the segregation through nonviolent lunch counter sit-ins, building a stunning climax to the steps of City Hall.
What do you have to say about that one?
Okay, well, I will say that's episode 27.
27.
So you can listen to it there.
Yep.
Again, color was amazing. The story itself, obviously, you can hear just from the description what an amazing story it is and how important it is. I mean, I feel like this trilogy should be in every school room, every library, and being taught as part of curriculum.
Yeah, unfortunately, John Lewis died this year before the election. Didn't get to see Trump thrown out of office.
He hasn't been thrown out yet.
Yeah, he is going to be. But, I mean, this man struggled to help,
I mean, like the description says, he's an icon. He's a civil rights
is
icon.
without a doubt. I mean, again, this like the Big Black story, it's a story that we shouldn't have to be reading in comic books about, first of all. But it happened.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, it should have never happened, but it did. It did, and these kind of stories need to be told.
Yeah,
they need to be told, and like you said, it should be in every. It should be in every library, whether it's a grammar school, high school, college, where public library. It should be everywhere.
Yeah, I do think that this is a good way to get young, teenagers, tweens, even into history. It's what I really like about this.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff that we're reading.
Yeah.
A lot of these graphic novels talking about history, and putting it into a medium that kids would be more interested in. As a kid, I remember it being hard to read history books because it was just the same boring stuff.
I've written some of them. I know. They are boring. They can be very boring.
Not that this any of the information in these books that we've read is boring, but I think that it just captures you that much more when you see the drawings.
They're not movies. They're not movies either, which is good, But just in this comic book form, it brings a different dimension to it.
Absolutely,
and it really this story again. Amazing story about, it starts out with him. He's getting ready to go to the inauguration of Obama. That's how it starts out. And he meets a woman and her son are going to the inauguration, and they stop in his office, and he takes time to talk with them. Yeah. And I mean, that's Yes. Just a good person, a good person who fought for the rights of the Black people all over the country, and it's not over. Black Lives Matter all fucking summer. We were dealing with this stuff,
Well, I mean,
it's not over, and so many people, and it's not something
What do you mean all summer?
No.
I mean, because there's been protests
because of the George Floyd start and Breonna Taylor. Those things started a movement, which hopefully doesn't stop. And
it didn't start a movement, though.
No. You're right. Black Lives Matter was already going.
Yes.
But that awoke a lot of people. I think it was just the whole Trump era. Everything just kind of coalesced into this thing that it was like just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely.
The election year, too, everything. People are just all fired up about getting rid of Trump. And it was just everything.
Not enough people fired up about it. I couldn't believe how close. Anyway,
yeah.
No,
that is an amazing book, without a doubt.
Yeah.
My next book, maybe a surprise, Lizard in a Zoot Suit.
That was not a surprise. I love that book.
Episode 55. It's by Marco Finnegan.
Again, talking about history in
Yes.
the kind of a different way.
In a completely different way.
Yep.
Los Angeles, 1943. It's the era of the Zoot riots, and Flocka and Quata have a problem. It's bigger than being grounded by their strict mother. It's bigger than tensions with the soldier station nearby. And it's shaped like a 5-foot tall lizard. When a lost member of an unknown underground species needs help, the sisters must scramble to keep their new friend away from a corrupt military scientist, but they'll do it in style. Cartoonist Marco Finnegan presents Lizard in a Zoot Suit, an outrageous historical sci-fi graphic novel. And basically what's going on is there was these Zoot Suit riots in LA in 1943, and there was also talk he had come across about these lizards living in the sewers. And he put the two things together and he made this great story, which again, and here in this thing published, this is exactly what I was going to say. Marco Finnegan provides smart commentary on racism, gender roles, and the counterculture of the period. Teens will enjoy the sci-fi take on a moment in U.S. history that isn't discussed enough. But yeah, you've got these soldiers stationed there in L.A., and you've got the one sister who dresses masculine.
Yeah.
And she's able to. And
I don't know if I don't even know if that's
the suit.
She wears the suit. She doesn't like.
Yes.
She doesn't wear the skirts and everything, and that's expected of her. Her sister does.
Exactly. I mean,
they're twins, right?
Are they? I don't remember.
I think they were twins because I think we didn't catch that at first.
Yeah, I mean it's a 144-page book. I don't know who published it. Let me see. There's a lot of stuff there. It doesn't even sell. I forgot who published it. Doesn't say here. But this, Graphic Universe. Great book. Just great book. Again, telling a part of history. I mean, he made it a little sci-fi, but it's a part of history that's not talked about. How these soldiers would go in and beat up these. They were Mexicans, right? Mm-hmm. that were living. They wore the Zoot suits, and they would hang out in L.A. And these soldiers would just go and beat them. And, and I think that's where the riot part comes in there. And it's just, it's good. It's a really good book. I liked it a lot. And that's why, again, it's in the history vein, but
with a twist.
With a twist, and great art, great story.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just
I love
really
the
good.
art.
Really
good.
All right, you're up.
So my next choice was genderqueer.
Okay, I looked at that a couple times.
Episode 45.
All right.
Let me pull it up. Where did I put it? In 2014, Maya Kobab.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Go ahead.
Oh man, I don't remember how to pronounce their name.
Sorry, go ahead.
Who uses EMR pronouns?
Mm-hmm.
Thought that a comic of reading statistics would be the last autobiographical comic he would ever write.
Wow.
What? At the time, it was the only thing he felt comfortable with strangers knowing about him. Now, genderqueer is here. Maya's intense, cathartic autobiography charts a journey of self-identity, which includes the mortification and confusion of adolescent crushes, grappling with how to come out to family and society, bonding with friends over erotic gay fan fiction, and facing the trauma of fundamental violation of pap smears. Started as a way to explain to Air Family what it means to be non-binary and asexual, genderqueer is more than a personal story. It's a useful and touching guide on gender identity, what it means, and how to think about it for advocates, friends, and humans everywhere. And I remember watching the video, an interview or a book talk rather that E did, and the pronunciation of their name is.
We apologize.
Kobab or
it may be
Kobab, Kobabe maybe. I wish I remembered. Such an amazing book. And that's one of the things I love about it too, is it does a lot of educating in the book. And such an amazing story that I think that a lot of queer people have similar feelings. I think I felt a lot, I saw a lot of myself in there. And so I think that a lot of queer people, probably, especially trans people, can read and see themselves in the story, which I think was what really brought it home to me.
Yeah, I agree. It was,
and again, the art was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, that was a book that I had found, and when I read it, I'm like, you're gonna like this book, and I know you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And
I did. I loved it. Did I say episode 45 yet?
Yes, you did.
All right.
All right. My next book, episode 50. We did 2 books that day. I'm going to review one of them, but it was also our first and so far only interview. Ryan Estrada from South Korea.
Yeah.
And this book is called Banned Book Club. Banned Book Club is... So when Kim Hyun-suk started college in 1983, she was ready for her world to open up after acing her exams and sort of convincing her traditional mother that it was a good idea for a woman to go to college. She looked forward to soaking up the ideas of Western literature far from the drudgery she was promised at her family's restaurant. But literature class would prove to be just the start of a massive turning point, still focused on reading, but with life or death stakes she never could have imagined. So what it is these primarily students who were part of a book club,
right?
That it was against the law to read some of these books, a lot of these books, like Western books, Western literature,
right?
And they secretly met. Now, what was it? What did they meet under the auspices of being like a newsletter or something, the school newspaper or something? Isn't that what it was? Was that I'm trying to make sure I don't confuse stories.
I think you're right.
That's how they all got together.
When she went to this meeting, she didn't realize what she was getting into.
She didn't realize it was
because she walked, because that's right. She walked onto campus and saw these people protesting and was kind of in shock about it.
Yeah.
And then went to class, and she was late for class because of it. And her friend kind of picked her out of a crowd, and I guess, I don't know, saw it in her or something, and she became very passionate about it.
Yeah.
But when she stepped into it, she had no idea what she was getting into.
Exactly. Ryan Estrada is the artist of this book. He's written a lot of books. I mean, I'm sorry, he's the writer. He's written and illustrated books, and started submitting his work to newspapers when he was 6 years old. And one of those newspapers hired him when he was 16. And Kim Hyun-suk was born in Changwon, South Korea. She became a member of the Banned Book Club in the 1980s while studying English language and literature. And this is her first book. And Ryan had said that he thought, even though he lives in South Korea himself, he thought that it would be better if somebody from South Korea, a Korean person, was the illustrator, so that it was tied more closely to the people there. Because he said he could have done it too. He could have done the artwork himself. But he's like, I thought it would be better if somebody Korean actually was involved in that. And it's just a great book.
Absolutely.
Love this book.
I love chatting with Ryan.
Yes, he was a great interviewee. Oh, wait. She was, I'm sorry. It was her story that he was telling.
Right.
But it was Ko Hyun-ju who was the artist.
Oh, okay.
But this was, yes, because that's right. Because it was her story that he's telling. But the artist, he needed a Korean artist to make it, feel better. And the reason
he lives in Korea
with her.
Yeah,
that's his wife.
That's his wife. Right.
That's his wife. Just wanted to put that together. That's his wife, and that's her story that he's telling.
Yeah.
And it's such a good story.
It is such a good story.
They're basically trying to stay under the radar of the government and read these books and creating trouble at the same time. They were doing illegal things.
Yeah.
And eventually, things changed.
Yeah.
And regimes changed,
Mm-hmm.
and awesome book. I mean, it's grade level 7 to 9, but I think it's an easy read for an adult. I mean, not that it's easy, but it's
7 through 9 though.
a great read for an adult too. I think it's a really good book.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're saying this should be in schools,
Yeah.
but being taught curriculums and
Mhm.
stuff, or as part of curriculums and stuff,
Yep.
because it's history. It's stuff that needs to be talked about.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anything else? Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. You found out how to say
It's Kobabe.
Okay, go babe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I had to do it.
I know you did.
I had to make sure I said Aaron's
okay.
last name right.
You're good.
It's Kobabe.
All right. And what is your fifth and final book?
Are you ready for it?
I am.
I don't know if you are.
Okay, hold
I don't
on.
know if you can handle it.
I don't know. I don't have drums, sorry.
I don't think you can handle it.
All right, go ahead.
Bingo Love.
Oh, yes. Bingo Love.
Such an episode 28. Such an amazing story of queer love. Black queer love too. Coming out later in life. That was another part of the story.
Yeah.
They had grandchildren.
Oh, that was an amazing book.
They had
tell
grandchildren.
about it. Tell
Oh yeah, I didn't even say that.
Now that you said it, I just all of a sudden it clicked. I remember exactly what it is.
Oh,
the grandmothers.
Oh. And quite a few. Actually, I'm gonna leave. Okay, so when Hazel Johnson and Mary McCrae met at church bingo in 1963, it was love at first sight. Forced apart by their families and society, Hazel and Mari both married young men and had families. Decades later, now in their mid-60s, Hazel and Mari reunite again at a church bingo hall, realizing their love for each other is still alive. What these grandmothers do next takes absolute strength and courage. So this was the 2019 Texas Library Association's Maverick graphic novel reading list. It made the 2019. Okay. Amazon Book Review's Best Comics and Graphic Novels of 2018. NPR's Best Books of 2018. Newsweek's Best Comic Books of 2018. The Advocate's Best LGBTQ Graphic Novels of 2018. Book Riot's Best Comics of 2018. And Autostrado's 50 of the Best LGBTQ Books of LGBT Books of 2018. So quite some good.
And the story is beautiful.
Oh, it's so the artwork. Yeah, artwork is fabulous. I mean, this is one of the. It has a happy ending, right? It doesn't. It doesn't, though, does it?
No,
that's right. I forgot how it ends.
These two women finally are able to love each other.
Yes, it's a happy love story.
It is.
There's the part where they end up marrying men and having families, and that's. For the times, probably relatively typical. But the fact that they came back together and got to spend any time together, like, what are the chances?
Yeah.
And so I just a real happy story in that aspect.
Yeah, unfortunately for the characters, it wasn't long enough. I mean, because they were later in life.
Yeah, I mean, they fell in love as children.
Yeah, like 14 or something.
And
like
so
that.
long to go without your love, and it was just it was just an incredible story. I enjoyed every moment of it.
It was beautiful. That was a great story.
Yeah,
and I believe I had found that one when we were looking specifically. I don't know. What number was that?
28.
Was that in February? Was that during Black History Month?
It may have been.
Yeah. So that could have been. That was one of those books, and yes, great book. T. Franklin.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. My final book was episode number 49. Let's see. You did 45, 46.
Oh, wow. I did quite a few.
I did 49 and 50. I mean, that little group there, we had a lot of books that were really good. Final book, Paying the Land by Joe Sacco.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Sacco?
Sacco. I think it's Sacco.
Yeah. Sacco's in Buffalo.
Yes. And that's why I get confused every time.
Sacco. So, that's why. Yeah. This book, From the Heir to R. Crumb and Art Spiegelman, a masterful work of comics journalism about indigenous North America, resource extraction, and our debt to the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the Dene in the in Canada, and it is a book, big, thick, black and white, extraordinarily drawn and detailed, full pages, like all the way to the edges, of these drawings, super detailed, beautiful drawings of the First Nations people in Canada, and this horrible story about how. A true story. He interviewed a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's history, and he draws the people that he's interviewing too. It's a really fascinating book.
And he's a fantastic artist.
Oh, fantastic!
Drawing people. These are First Nations people. They don't just look like white people that have First Nations names. You can see he drew people that looked realistic. And he's a fantastic artist and storyteller. I mean, a lot of it is their own story.
Right.
He's just relaying it.
Yeah.
But it's about the way these big conglomerates come in to these little towns, happens in the U.S. too, come into these little towns and they set up shop because there's something there, whether it's oil or minerals or something. And they bring in all these people and bring in money, and they fill hotels, and they buy food, and they fill the restaurants up, and they hire some people, but they bring in a lot of people too. And it's just the way that the people, the First Nations people would basically fight with each other, and they didn't agree with how it was going down and how the government. Oh, and this is all about the children, the children being taken away and sent to these Catholic schools.
Yeah.
There was
horrible atrocities on these children who being taken away from their family as if that wasn't trauma enough, and then went and were beaten and abused and called names, and their culture just ripped right away from them.
And that's the thing. Yes, they were turned from loving their culture and their history into becoming Christians and Catholics. And like you said, they were forced to basically relinquish all of that they knew about themselves and just become good Catholics, and for some of them, as adults, they embraced both. They remember their past, but at the same time, they're Christian, and.
Well, yeah, it gets drilled into you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible story. Fantastic book, though. Yeah. And
again, another one that needs to be in the curriculum.
Yes, it needs to be told in this country. It needs to be told in Canada. I mean, people need to know this history. The Canadian government was not kind to those people.
Well, and they did the exact same thing here.
But they did apologize eventually in the 2000s. They apologized, which is more to say than our country has done for a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, fantastic book. And I've got a couple. I had 8. I had to pick, and a couple other ones. These are special mentions. The Unknown, Anna Summer, great book.
I almost picked that one too.
Such a good book. It was so weird. You couldn't figure out what was going on, and it's just this great story.
Yeah, it was a great story.
I loved it, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah, me too.
Langosh and Peppy.
Oh man, I love that book.
That book was so good.
Yeah,
based partly on stories that she actually had experienced traveling.
Yeah, and honestly,
including the diarrhea part. I mean, which she explained to us, and she sent us a message and said, "Yeah, that did happen."
Yeah,
eating bad Chinese food, but. But I mean, it's such a good story, and she said there's going to be another book. So
yeah,
I mean,
excited.
She's got more stories of these characters, so it was really good. I enjoyed that
for sure.
And did I have another one?
You said you did.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Maybe
5,
it was
6.
One that
oh no, I only had 7.
Oh, okay.
I only had 7, but yeah. So those 2 special mentions, but great stuff. 2020. Comic book, graphic novel wise was fantastic.
It was. A lot of good stuff came out this year.
Yes.
But a lot of good stuff we read this year, not just that came out this year, since I picked several favorites that did not come out this year, but we did read.
Yes, only a couple though. I mean, but it's okay. Bingo Love was a really good
I don't
book.
care.
Oh, no, that was a really good book. Yeah, I tried to stick with stuff that came out this year, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. That was just my preference.
I know. I'm okay with it.
I am too. Great books. Thank you to all of our listeners.
Yes, thank you for hanging on and not complaining when we when we missed a week here or there.
Yep. Well, Parker's in school, and we're trying to get ahead of ourselves so we can stay on a regular schedule coming through 2021. But thank you very much for being a part of Graphic Novel Podcast for our first full year.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. You have comments, questions.
Yeah,
maybe you want to know our favorite color or something.
We
reach out and ask.
we are willing to take criticism if you think there's something that needs to be done, or you don't like something. I remember that.
But we love being complimented too.
Yeah,
I'm a Leo. I love those compliments.
I remember somebody complained about my punk rock music when we had our Northwest Brew Talk, and we had music like this, and somebody complained, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? But whatever. Yeah, it's like,
you're not gonna make everybody happy. I mean,
but
if that's the most they can say about it, then
exactly.
Anyway.
So anyhow, happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Stay safe.
Wear your
masks.
Wear your mask. Hopefully 2021 is a better year.
Yep. Remember to support those Black-owned businesses and Black creators, especially. Since we're a graphic novel podcast, yes. I guess we should make sure we say Black creators.
And thank you to all the publishers who sent us review copies this year. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're going to see you in 2021, and we hope to bring you another 40 or 50 books that are just as good, if not better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So until next week and until next year, my name is Mike.
And I'm Parker.
And this is the Graphic Novel Podcast.